everyone. Welcome back to Game of the System. Once again, we are Matt, Jem, and Alex, and we're doing part 2 of our series on romance in games. This time, I'm going to be talking about narrative romance, which is romance that you don't get a say in. It's just like any romance in any TV show or film that has been preordained for you. And Jem said she doesn't like romance novels or stuff like that, and I will be asking whether is there an element of games that features in our experience? Is it something that we play games for? Is it something that turns us on or off when it comes to a game? Start off with what are your guys' experience of, do any experiences stand out to you from your gaming past of romances that made an impact on you?
I think I missed something.
Ignore that. Carry on. Sorry. What have we heard?
I was going to work out what that was. I think in terms of a romance that I can see that has evolved over time is one from the Uncharted games, which you wouldn't initially think of as romantic, but I think the relationship between Nate and now my brain is gone. No, you remember Matt, can't you?
I don't know.
Her name? No, oh no.
I'm the exact opposite. She made no impact on me at all.
No. Yeah, I guess in some ways it's kind of quite formulaic. Oh, what was her name? See, I should have come better prepared. But anyway, Nate's initially obvious love interest in the first game, then evolves over the Uncharted games to become, in the second one, she's kind of a bit bummed out because she sees he's with Chloe. And she's like, oh, well, I'm playing second fiddle, am I? And eventually it turns out they get together at the end. Then Uncharted 3, I think they're still together. And then Uncharted 4, you see them much more evolved as a married couple, facing some bumps in the road, some bumps in communication. And the game kind of explores how communication in relationships works and how relationships at that stage, you have to be like a team. And that it's important to think of it in that way. So in that way, I think it kind of expresses how the developers of the game have evolved in their own relationships and their own lives and how they've matured, which is an interesting thing to reflect on. And then in terms of other story romances, I think one of the very earliest I remember is from Assassin's Creed Revelations with Ezio and Sophia, when you play in Constantinople. And I quite like how that one's kind of spread over the whole game. It's not immediately resolved. It's obvious that she's a love interest, and it's always, I never know how people don't make it not obvious that someone's a love interest, you know. I guess, again, it kind of buys into the heteronormative thing. If there's a woman involved in the game, she must be the love interest, which says something in and of itself. But that's another one that sticks with me just because they kind of stretched out the story a little bit. And most recently, one that I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about yet, but is from God of War Ragnarok, is a really great illustration of just those awkward conversations between people who instantly like each other but aren't sure quite how to express it, especially as teenagers. But we can talk about that at a later date, I'm sure.
How about you, Jem? What's your experience?
I really struggle with this actually because I know that I have played games where there have been romantic relationships, but I think I've played more where there's been friendships, and I think, I do struggle with this because I think, it's like any story. If it's well written and it adds depth to the characters, then you just sort of take it as part of the story, and you don't even necessarily notice it as such. It just, that is it. I do think that, I mean, we've talked a lot about how especially male characters usually need some kind of motivation for whatever they're doing, normally going on some long and involved quest, which usually, and so that's often the way that romance is kind of portrayed in those stories, is as a motivation. You know, the love has been lost, or the love has been betrayed, or something like that. So it's a sort of extreme version. I do also think that there is an issue with it, because if you're playing, well, most games you play one character, maybe two, but you normally play one character. And so any love interest or any romance is going to be to the side of that character if it's part of the storyline. That it almost sort of sidelines, diminishes the relationship, because you are only controlling one. And in my opinion, a good and healthy relationship is about working together as a team. And so that gets lost completely, even when the storyline is really good, because you're either going to be going off on adventures and coming back to visit your loved one, or, you know, they're just going to be some kind of occasionally spoken to sidekick, effectively. So I think there are problems with it from a storytelling in perspective within games. Not in, obviously, that same problem does not apply to films and books in the same way.
You've just sparked some inspiration for me, Jem, talking about only being able to control one character. Just remembered a game that is very much about a relationship, and that's It Takes Two.
Yes.
I played it, but that's very good. And that is about a couple who are on the brink of divorce, and you essentially play through trying to, the goal of the game is to basically avoid the divorce and kind of repair your family, which I had kind of mixed feelings about that message in general. You know, whether patching up divorce is really the end goal here, or is it something more? But in general, you know, as you operate, you play both characters, or you play with a friend to play both characters, and a lot of the time it is about making strides in your relationship and helping that relationship to grow. So that's a really interesting take, definitely.
I've just remembered what Nathan Drake's wife's name is.
Yes.
Elena. It's Elena.
Elena.
How could I forget?
Yes, I don't know how I could forget, which, again, might say something about it, even though I said I thought it was good. Not remembering her name is obviously a bad sign.
I didn't remember. Alex just put it in the group chat. So.
Yes, I did. It came back to me in the middle of chatting.
I think, thinking about this again, the in trying to think about ones that made an impact, the fact that so little of them have made an impact on me goes to show that there isn't a tremendous amount of really interesting romantic relationships portrayed in games, because there's only so interesting you can make. And you go, oh, you're the hero, so of course all the women that will want to be with you will want to be with you. There's no complexity there. And if the woman is complex who you're trying to romance, they normally simplify it so just it becomes very binary and transactional, when the point of relationships, be it romantic or friendships, is that they're not based in quantifiable things. You don't measure love by how many things someone has done for you. You can love someone who, I'm sure a lot of people have been in love with multiple people, and if you think back on it, it's very rarely it's because they completed these quests for me. And I think the bringing into another thing, I think fucking Nathan Drake is the most blandest of bland, useless, worst, just boring tossers ever. And Elena was equally boring for me. But again, that shows I just
Maybe
talking.
I'm just easily pleased. I don't know.
Yeah. And yeah. No, that's another element because you guys know the song. Oh, go ahead. There
you go. No, I was just going to say, like, I guess it's like watching a film. It's not the most like a masterpiece of a film. You're just watching it for your popcorn and for a good time. Like a Marvel movie or something like that. You know what you're going in for with that type of game, and it's not like groundbreaking emotional, like zeniths or anything. Is it potentially? I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
No, I was gonna give you potential for credit.
Well, yeah,
because you guys know the song "The Winner Takes It All."
Yes.
You know that one, yeah. So I love. There's a power metal version of it with a guy. It's fantastic. Really high, really cool, and I like it for that. For those notes, I think it's really cool. And then my mum came in and said, "Oh, it's such a beautiful song, and it makes my mum and my sister cry." And I just look at the lyrics and go, "This is fuck. There's nothing here. It's awful, worthless, plain, just bollocks that sounds good when a power metal person sings it." And that just shows that some people see things that are there for them and other people don't.
Yeah.
And
very true.
that just means that they're valid to each individual person. I
guess Uncharted is kind of in the same mold as Indiana Jones in that way. It was very much modelled after that sort of we're here for an adventure type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. We have to talk about Lara Croft again at some point because replaying the newer ones and having more irritation with it than I remember having before.
Yeah, no, that's interesting as well.
Is her dad mentioned in the original games?
I think so. Yeah, I know his name's Richard Croft from the originals. There was a statue of her parents at the beginning of Chronicles, I think, which was the 5th one, and that was after the 4th one, where I think they die when she's quite young, and you get left with Werner von Croy, who's like your mentor, and that's where the plot of the 4th one kind of rolls off from. But they were never a big feature. I know that they basically died, so you were like an orphan. But yeah, and then from the more modern games, they kind of focused in a lot more on the parental relationships, so that Lara could have like this intense emotional backstory for them to play off of, rather than just being a badass adventuring woman who happened to carry guns and shoot dinosaurs. Yeah, so I guess they're trying to plumb it for more depth in the more modern one.
Yeah, because they make her dad like the defining feature of her entire story arc in every single one, and that's just another fucking irritating thing. Oh, we're going to make her deep by doing this, by defining her with this trope,
with this emotional baggage. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll have to do another episode on motherhood and fatherhood.
Yeah.
Just making lists and lists of these things.
They're very popular themes in games now.
And wouldn't you know, when game developers become fathers and husbands, they suddenly start thinking, "Oh, there might be some interesting stories here that I didn't see when I was younger."
Yeah.
What are so talking about a bit of the complexities? What are some of the bits that are just bad about about when you find narrative romances? Jem, it was me and Alex talking for like 10 minutes there. What do you think?
Well, aside from what I was saying about the sort of fact that the characters, the romantic interests, are usually sidelined in the story just by the nature of the way games work. I think that there's a devaluing of relationships that can occur. I think this probably applies to both the active and the narrative, because I think that, you know, when you make a relationship all about what impact it has on your quest, your overall storyline, you know, and in so much as like in some games, it's like it's better if you engage with certain characters, you get more bonuses if you go down, you know, with this person rather than that person. Or, you know, like we was talking previously about Dragon Age, you know, and if you romance certain characters or allow certain characters to maintain their romances in certain games, then, you know, then they'll stay in the party or they'll fight and they'll leave the party. So I think reducing relationships down to the transactional, I mean, transactional is the word of this episode, really, these two episodes, because, you know, reducing it down to a transactional thing is really problematic and really negative. I think it has a very damaging impact on how we perceive relationships within the game world. And I think that the other aspect is that it can have, I suppose this is just an extension to my comments about sidelining, but I think it can have a sort of, when the romance is happening as part of the story and you're not able to impact it, then that can be frustrating. Character as, you know, doing stuff that doesn't
impact upon your emotions.
Yeah, I think that can be quite difficult, as you know, frustrating. But then there are other scenarios, like I've just started playing Monkey Island, the latest Monkey Island. I think it's 3. Anyway, the Return to Monkey Island, and so like a little point and click game that I played the originals off like 30 years ago or something insane. But anyway, and he has a relationship in that game that's just, you know, you don't have any control over it. He in the first game he rescues this woman called Elaine, and then later they go on to get married. Well, he doesn't really rescue her. She rescues herself, but that's the sort of thing that he thinks that he's the great hero and that he's protecting her. And she's always a bit like, "Aw," you know, to him. And I really like that because she just kind of gets on with her. They've written it in a way that she gets on with doing her thing. And so in the current game, she's busy trying to cure scurvy by growing lots of limes on an island because they're all pirates. And she does come along and find him at one point, and he's in a bit of a bind. And he says, "Oh, did you get the magic potion to get to this island too?" And she says, "Oh, did you use a magic potion to get here? That's sweet." And you just get this idea that basically she's getting on with her life and he's letting him go off and have all these adventures. And I like that because then it feels like there's a consistency in their relationship and a sort of multiple layers in their relationship, which is just very broadly brush strokes, very broadly painted. So yeah.
It's interesting you talk about layers in a relationship. I think in quite a lot of games where the where the romance is kind of sidelined. You can argue it's kind of lazy in the way that it's like inevitably they're going to get together at the end. You know it's going to be the end goal, and that's what's going to happen to wrap up the story nicely. I think one game that kind of challenged that idea recently, one of my favourite games, Assassin's Creed Origins, when you look at the relationship between Bayek and Mrs. Bayek, again, whose name I've forgotten. Terrible. Anyway, but they, obviously their relationship is kind of, in the game, is revolving around getting vengeance for the death of their son. Spoilers, sorry. And when that quest conclusion is reached, you can see that they've drifted apart, so they just decide to part ways and kind of get on with their own lives. And so it kind of shows that staying together at the end isn't always inevitable, and it doesn't have to be inevitable, which is a good thing. So in terms of negatives, I guess the inevitability of some in-game relationships, it can get a little stale and repetitive.
Yeah, I really like some games, like there's less is more elements. So I agree with you, Jim, that what a game is, you have a main character and then you have NPCs, and you're off on the main character journey, and the NPCs just carry on doing what they would normally be doing. And having a real serious romantic relationship, and just like you said, Alex, with Valhalla, you go, we go off on this trip and we climb this tower, and then we can have sex at the top of the tower, and then from then on you can have sex on the table in the fucking map room. And I thought when they're talking in those relationship moments, I really liked that. But then it goes, we're back to the normal gameplay loop now.
Do the quest now, quest dialogue time. Yeah. It can be quite jarring, the breaks between them. Definitely.
And I really liked the Bayek and Mrs. Bayek interaction, because losing a child, that's a real world thing that really happens, and that is a profound impact on any parent's relationship. Exactly. It has to be, so they played that so brilliantly, of going, their relationship couldn't survive this, and that happens, but that doesn't mean that you're not either madly in love forever or hating each other forever. That was just really interesting. And another one is, you've both played. Can you guys hear the rain?
Oh my gosh, is that the rain?
Yeah. Wow. Can we pause for a moment, and I'll go indoors and stand by. So back to Bayek and Mrs. Bayek. The very real truth that relationships aren't binary. They're not either you're having sex on the table at the drop of a hat, or you hate each other forever. One of the games that I think has done fabulously when it comes to really good real relationship is, you've both played Last of Us, the first of the Last of Us games.
Unfortunately.
And have you both played Jem? Have you played the second one?
I've started the second one very early in, but I have just seen a scene between two of the characters. So.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yes. I think
shortly before it all goes to shit.
Yeah. So remember in the first one, the Left Behind DLC, where it's Ellie and her best friend Riley, and they've got this real, just beautiful relationship, and they have a kiss at the end. So you just think that they're both young teenagers, and they just capture that kind of a unique kind of relationship that people have in that time of life, and the fact that it's two young girls doing it, that's making a statement. That's what I really want from any kind of narrative game. Is I want them, I don't care what you do, just make a statement with it. So that made a powerful statement. And then there's the man in the town who's set up all the booby traps. I can't remember what his name was, but basically you find out that he finds that his partner, who they'd split up, had hung himself in his house. And there's that moment where he says, Joel says, "Oh, do you know him?" And he says, "He was my partner." And just that, they don't talk about it. You can just tell from the look on his face and the way he says partner, you go that he loved him very, very much, but their relationship had ended. And I thought that was really beautifully done. And then moving on to the next one, there was just the relationships of some of the main characters are really diverse and interesting. That I won't go into detail too much for. But all of them are making clear, powerful statements rather than being run-of-the-mill stuff. I think for the final question is, what impact do you think that the narrative games, the state of narrative game romance, has on the people who play the games?
I think that when it's done, as you've just described, when it's done properly, it can be it can take the game to a whole other level. You know, it can really lift it because when you are looking for an immersive, engaging experience, anything that fleshes out those characters and makes them more real and more believable is gold dust. You know, it's so important, and it really shifts the way that how impactful a game is. It's those are the games that stay with you for years afterwards, and that you go back to and that you hanker after. You know, those are the ones that, and it's really funny actually, because we've been talking about this, I've been thinking about I can't remember whether it's Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter Nights, but one of the characters in there has a hamster, like a killer hamster, that goes in and attacks people in the fight. And one of the things that the character shouts is, "Go for the eyes, boo." But they were such good friends, these two little, this big man and his little tiny hamster. It was so cute. But it was written so well, and it was consistent in different scenarios and little conversations that were dropped in throughout the game, that it just became, whenever you thought of whenever you thought of this character, you always thought of his pet. You know, the two, they came together. And I think when you're designing and writing a game, you know, those are the things that just stay with you and make those characters feel believable, make that game feel believable, encourage you to invest emotionally, so that when or if one of those characters dies, or the relationship ends, or something happens, you feel it, you know, and that is so good and so valuable, because it, you know, that's what makes a really good game, when you kind of come up for air and you're like, oh yeah, I've just been in this place. And romantic relationships, and any in-depth relationship, is so important for doing that, because humanity, we're all about our relationships. So, you know, to just sort of cream them off the top, I think is a problem. If and so when a game does it properly, I think it can be really excellent. And then I think, it can be a really positive influence on people in their lives, in their real lives.
Yeah, I can only echo what you say generally. I think if you've got a really well-written romantic story in a narrative game, it can only serve to enhance the experience of you as a player. If you're playing a narrative game and you can take away like this massive emotional journey that you've been on, and then maybe apply some of it to your own like lived history or the stuff that's going on in your life right now, I think that is quite a positive thing, because we're all very emotional people, and if we have an outlet to perhaps even have something we can maybe process or confront some of those emotions, like if you look at The Last of Us, that's a really good one for processing feelings of grief and bereavement and like breaking trust and all that other sort of complex emotional stuff that humans go through when they are in relationships with other people, and they're in families and all that sort of thing. If you've got a really great narrative game, then that can tap into that, and it, more than just being an entertainment experience, it can be a learning and growing experience as well. So yeah, I think that can be very positive.
I've noticed only in the last few weeks, thinking about this and from playing the game that must not be named, that I don't really look for emotional impact when I'm thinking about games that I play. Because mainly I like the process of gaming is so comforting and enjoyable. That's why I like massive long story games as opposed to short, more intense ones like Everyone's Gone to the Rapture and Journey and Abzu, where the point is the reason that they're 2-3 hours long and are so wildly popular is because they make people feel things. Really seeing and understanding for the first time that games and the relationships you see in them can feed your soul in ways that you didn't realize it was hungry for. That you might see some kind of relationship. The one that comes to mind is, so this is from the first God of War game, is the relationship that grows between Kratos and Atreus, and you see the different the points where, because with any kind of relationship, it's not, you can't quick save and then go back to the way it was before. Every single second is a step away from where it was at the last point, and there's such clear points where the path that you're walking towards splits off, and the person, Atreus, makes a decision that takes it out of your hands, and you go, wait, it was really good just then, and Atreus just did something that makes you go, oh, but it's changed irrevocably. It can't be recoverably now. And just like you say, with those really good portrayals, it can suddenly touch a part of you that goes, oh, I didn't realize that I was hungry for what I just experienced. And that's the best thing, where you can take it and you can see and feel things differently. That's the best thing for me. I think that's about time. Is there anything else you guys want to add for the end?
I think I'm done.
I think I've said it all.
Oh, we have just more ideas about incels and toxic relationships and toxic but that's for another time. Thank you very much for watching or listening, everyone. We have been Gaming the System. As usual, we'll be releasing something every Thursday at 7 p.m. Please like, share, subscribe, follow us, give us a comment, anything you can do to help get us into as many eyes and ears of feminist gamers as possible. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
we hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.